In our next section on workers' compensation premium negotiation tips, we're going to talk about the experience modification, which we call a cost driver sometimes. And by that we mean we have heard over and over again when we've met new clients that the experience modification is going to have a direct impact on the pricing going forward. Meaning, if there's a 20% increase in the experience modification, the client has told us they expect a 20% increase in their rates. Or vice versa, if there's a 25% reduction in the experience modification for the coming year, the client expects there will be a corresponding 25% reduction in the final net rates. And the correlation isn't that direct, and we think it largely has to do with the quality of the broker that's involved in the account. We talked in the last video about schedule credits or underwriting judgment credits, or the ability of the underwriter to deviate pricing based on their judgment of the quality of the business by up to 50%. And there are a lot of categories that the underwriter can consider when deciding how much of the credits to apply. And a good broker is going to flesh those out. A good broker is going to ask the client enough questions in enough of these categories to help the underwriter justify applying as many credits as possible. So we talked about an underwriter might apply plus or minus 10% for the quality and extent of the safety plan. Might be plus or minus 10% for the experience of management. Must be plus or minus 10% credits for example, having lighter exposure than most other businesses in that industry. So a landscaper that doesn't do tree work might get an additional 10% credits because they're perceived as having lighter exposure. Many, many areas that underwriters can consider in this regard to drive schedule credits higher and give the client more credit and reduce the amount of the final premium that's paid despite a higher experience modification. And if the experience modification is going down, you want as many credits as possible, obviously, to realize the full impact of that reduction in the experience modification. So as we've said many, many times, the quality and the quantity of arguments made in your behalf, and preferably in writing, can make a big difference. And here's another area where it's a good example. One final comment, many brokers are now offering services where they come in and audit the information that before it's sent on to the state to calculate the experience modification. They will audit the payroll and they will audit the losses and try to drive the losses down, in particular the reserves down, before that information is sent to the state to calculate the experience modification. Really valuable service, and if you're not getting that, you should.